This is a follow-up video to my previous video about the Rolex bubble bursting. I'm going to be adding more context to my opinion, kind of explaining the reasoning behind my thoughts and sharing more data with you because people have shared data with me. Let's get into it. Oh, and I'll be doing this with a lot less sensationalism. I hope you approve of the title. Welcome back to Bark and Jack. I am Adrian, and if you want to support the channel, just hit that subscribe button down the bottom there and the little bell icon so you get notifications when I drop new videos. I just want to get two things off my chest before we get into the main bulk of this video. Firstly, that previous video was not sponsored by WatchFinder. It's frankly quite idiotic that people think that that video was sponsored by WatchFinder. I was saying that WatchFinder had a sale on a product which I said wasn't selling very well. Why would that be a sponsored video? No, it wasn't a sponsored video by Bob's Watches. Yes, I was quite positive about Bob's Watches and their pricing. Just because I say something positive about something doesn't mean it's a sponsored video. Secondly, the clickbaity title. Yeah, the title was hyped up. I wanted eyes on this message. I wanted eyes to see what was going on here. This is a YouTube channel. This is my living, and I want to grow the YouTube channel. So I jumped on that opportunity to talk about something topical, talk about something I'm interested, and use it as an opportunity to grow the channel. As a job of getting my message out, it did its job. As a job of building the channel, it did its job. When you're trying to build something like this, you do have to do strategic things, and I jumped on that opportunity to build the channel, and it worked. It obviously pissed a lot of people off. It's just that happens that was an opportunity to take, and I took it. I do stand by my kind of breakdown, and I kind of get to it towards the end of the video. So far as I feel like this is the changing point of the Rolex market, and I'll be more specific about all of that throughout this video. This is probably going to be quite a long video because there's analysis to do, there's a lot of explaining, and I don't want to leave stuff out, because when you leave stuff out, people then jump to conclusions and they bridge the gaps themselves, and they kind of just make things up. And naturally within YouTube and the watch world, there's a lot of negativity, and I don't want to leave anything to people just to make up. So that's why it's going to be a long video. The previous video was a bit broad, and having a title of the Rolex bubble has finally burst, or whatever it was, that's really quite broad and quite dramatic, and I want to really hit home about what exactly I'm talking about. And I've got some slides to show you because you don't need to see this, and I kind of want to back up the message that I'm trying to say. So I want to be super clear about the market that I'm talking about. I believe, and this is my kind of thesis, that's probably a better way of starting the video. I believe that the 6-digit steel sports watches from Rolex, the market is softening for them. And I'll show you some graphs to back that up. And here's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the 4-digit vintage stuff. I'm not talking about the discontinued 5-digit models. I'm talking about the brand new, really hyped up 6-digit watches. That's all I'm talking about. I'm not saying that the whole market has crashed. I hope all the negativity for that video was simply because of the clickbaity title, and not because of the message of the video. Because if what I suggest is true, then this is good news for us. This means that the hype is coming out of the watches, and those who actually want them might be able to get them. There were lots of comments about people saying, I don't believe the bubbles burst until I can see a Pepsi GMT in the window or a Daytona in the window. There'll never be a point where that will happen. What I'm talking about is the ridiculousness of this all is starting to fade away. That's what I'm trying to say. And I suspect that it won't be all that long. I'm talking 6 to 12 months before we start seeing Submariners in the window again. I got a message today on Instagram of a chap who, I can't remember where he said they were from. So there's a Black Dial Explorer 2 and a green glass Milgauss Watches Switzerland Royal Exchange in London. So these sports watches, and then I saw an Explorer in the window of, I can't remember where it was in Glasgow. It was, I think, Elaine's or something. And that's my whole point, is I feel like a pin has been slid into the bubble that is this particular Rolex market. And it's starting to deflate. Now I want to show you why I think the WatchFinder sale is so significant. To explain this, I've made a little hierarchy of watch sellers. On the left, you can see it says risk. The top section is low risk, bottom section is high risk. On the right side, you can see it says price. On the bottom section, it's low. On the top section, it's high. First off, we've got Joe Blogs right at the bottom. He's just a normal guy who's trying to sell a watch. He might be doing on eBay or Chrono24, but he's high risk because he has no credibility, and his price will, of course, be lower than other people. And then you've got the guy who sells watches as a side hustle. Maybe he sells them on Instagram. He might be one of those guys in the forums who's who has a bit of a reputation going. The risk is slightly less, but it's such a large market that there's still risk involved. Again, he can't charge big bucks for his watches, but a little bit more than random Joe Blogs. Then you have the online dealer. So this is probably a person who has a business account on eBay or has a dealer account on Chrono24. They might have a little bit of a reputation to uphold. They might have a large Instagram account, but ultimately still risk is involved because it's such a large arena and the prices aren't massive. Now you're getting into a place of medium risk, I'd say, and medium price. For me, this is a sweet spot. You're buying from an independent watch dealer, someone who has a brick and mortar shop or someone who's been doing it for a while and has enough of a reputation to uphold that they're not going to dick about. And now we've got a high street retailer. I'm talking about your Watches Switzerland, your Mappin and Webb, those kind of groups that you'd see on the high street. They don't specialize in pre-owned watches, but they have pre-owned watches. The risk is pretty much non-existent with them. There are some that you have to be careful with. But ultimately, when they get a watch in to sell, they'll pretty much just send it back off to the manufacturer to get serviced and then put it in a shop window. The prices will be high, the risk is low. Then at the top we have WatchFinder. These guys, I'd say, are on par with the high street people when it comes to low risk. They have their own in-house watchmakers. This is not a fucking advert for WatchFinder. I just know how they do things. WatchFinder have a big reputation. Risk is low, cost is very, very high. WatchFinder set whatever price they want because they can. And what WatchFinder do is they push the price up as much as possible. I always hear dealers say, this is cheaper than what WatchFinder are doing. Dealers are using WatchFinder as a benchmark to see how far they can push the market. WatchFinder pretty much are setting the market. Certainly within the UK, I haven't got a clue what's happening anywhere else. I'm talking about the UK here. So this is why it's big news that WatchFinder are doing a sale. If WatchFinder start to bring down their price, have a think about what is going to happen with everyone else. High street shop can no longer say, oh, this is £2,000 cheaper than WatchFinder. No, it's not. It's the same price as WatchFinder now. Oh, right. Then we're going to have to reduce our price. The independent dealer can't charge what he wants to charge because he can't compete with the Watches of Switzerland group or WatchFinder, so he has to reduce his price. Online dealer can no longer charge what he wants to charge. Side hustle, Joe Blogs, the whole market has gone down. Now, WatchFinder don't need to do a sale. They aren't strapped for cash. They have investment by the Richemont group. They have a ton of money. After that video went out and it kind of caught traction, I started to get contacted by numerous people purporting to be or to have been connected with WatchFinder, and started to share some interesting information with me. Allegedly, 80% of interactions with customers who are talking about Rolex are trying to sell a Rolex, not buy a Rolex from WatchFinder. 8 out of 10 people who go into WatchFinder to discuss Rolexes are trying to push their Rolex, not buy. Whilst we're talking about WatchFinder and some of the details, let me show you some information around what people allege their quantities to be at the moment. Apparently they have 90 Daytonas in stock, the 116,500. They have 150 Mark I Batman, so that's with the Oyster bracelet, the 116,710. And they have 50 Hulks, the 116,10 LV. These numbers aren't pissing about. And as a side note, they also have 50, allegedly have 50 Nautilus in stock. I don't want the plural of Nautili or Nautiluses. Even with these numbers, WatchFinder are allegedly still buying in stock. So I don't believe the sale is because of a financial situation. Interestingly, Chrono24 got in contact and said, why didn't you use us for your analysis of the market? I explained why I didn't use Chrono24 within my analysis, and that's simply because there's so many variables involved. And I said, if you've got data to share, then I'd love to know data on the Batman, Daytonas, and Submariners. So they kindly sent over this data. This isn't an advert for Chrono24. I don't have to say things on basically, the rule of this channel is, and if you've been here for a while, you'll understand it, that if there's an advert, you'll know it's an advert. It's quite simple. These guys were kind enough to share this data with me, and so I've put their logo in the top. So the Mark I Batman with the Oyster bracelet, you can see that it had a fairly steady climb up to about 12.5, and you can see that downturn towards the end. So that is naturally softening. Yes, we can just say that that's a slight downturn in the market, and maybe it is just a slight downturn in the market. I'm predicting that it's a bit bigger than a slight downturn in the market. That's all I'm saying. And by you disagreeing with my prediction is you predicting that it's not a downturn. So we're both predicting here. We're both guessing where the market's going. The Batman Mark II, or the Batwoman, or the Jubilee bracelet Batman, It had a massive, you can see that spread at the start there. It had a huge amount of hype and so much uncertainty around how much the watch is worth, from 14,000 up to 16,500. And the market started to understand where it was sitting, but it was on a constant downturn. And then look at the spread at the moment. £2,000 spread at the bottom here. You can see the same here with the Daytona, latest ceramic Daytona. This has gone up in price massively. So it started off at about 13.5, and then we're up to 18.5, 19. You can see right at the end there that the market is really starting to spread out. People, again, don't know where this watch should sit. Should it sit at 17.5 or should it sit at 19.5? The Hulk has already started to take its downturn. We can see the start here of the uncertainty, the market starting to open up and then the change happening. And then the Submariner. Interestingly, WatchFinder didn't have a Submariner on sale, and the Submariner seems to be quite steady here. That's probably because the lack of hype around the Submariner. Again, the all black GMT, you can see when it was discontinued, this epic jump in price here, and then that slight correction where it's pulling down again, and it seems to be holding itself. Again, a watch that doesn't have a huge amount of hype. The data obviously doesn't show there's a crash in the market, but it does show, I feel, that there's a change in the market. And the change is mainly focused around the watches that have a massive hype. Your Daytonas, your Batmans, your Hulks. Thanks so much for Chrono24 sending that information over. It was very, very useful. And thanks so much for WatchFinder having such high staff turnover, because it means there's a lot of information out there. Supposedly, allegedly. So with the information, has it changed your mind? Do you now feel what I feel? I mean, yes, I sensationalized and I hyped it up, fine. But I do still feel like a little pin has been pushed into the bubble that is the hyped up Rolexes. I saw Paul Thorpe's response video to my original video, and he mentioned something that I did mean to say in my video, but I stupidly forgot. And he's very right. Don't go out and sell your watch just because some muppet on YouTube says something. Don't go out and sell your watch because you think the market's going down. If you've bought your watch solely for investment value, then do something else with your money. But also, you don't sell investments when they're going down. Sell them when they're going up. Sell them when they're strong. And these are just my thoughts and my opinions. I'm predicting that things are going to go down. That doesn't mean they are going to go down. Having mentioned Paul Thorpe's video, I do feel like he has I do feel you have a conflict of interest within this topic, as you are sponsored by a watch dealer. And as you say, you've got lots of friends who are watch dealers, and you're open about that. But I do feel like there's a conflict of interest there, so far as the watch dealer needs to sell watches. If the market's going down, the watch dealer won't sell watches. If the public knows that the market's going down, the watch dealer won't sell watches. So it's within the interest to say that the market isn't going down so that people carry on going out and buying watches. Luckily, I'm in a position to speak freely about what I think's happening. I don't have watch dealers sponsoring my videos, therefore I don't need to protect the market. I'm not here for watch dealers, not here for watch companies. I started this channel for watch people. Someone's going to lose out with this deal, whether it's the buyer or the dealer. At the moment, the buyer is losing out because they either can't get the watch or they can't afford the watch. If the tables turn so that the dealer loses out and the buyer gains because the buyer has more access to watches and doesn't have to pay so much for them, that's a win for us. Just to summarize and make it very clear, I feel like the bubble that is the new Rolex Sports steel watches, that bubble is deflating. Guys, this has been a very long video. If you've got this far, then I appreciate you staying till the end to listen to this. I would genuinely love to know, now that I've shared this information with you, what you think is happening. Again, this is good news for us. Perhaps not as good news for people like WatchFinder who have a lot of inventory. Perhaps not good news for Watch Dealer who has a lot of stock. But again, referencing back to Paul Thorpe, and the podcast that I did with him, he spoke about how when you're dealing watches, it's about getting them out. It's not about sitting on inventory. It's about getting that product in and selling it, making a profit and moving on to the next thing. Guys, let me know what you think down there. Do all the normal stuff. Do that thumbs up button, because My God, that last video got loads of thumbs down. If you want to check out our watch straps, jump over to barkandjack.shop and check out our watch straps. We've got brand new native straps that I've just dropped. Jump over to barkandjack.com if you want to check out articles. Check me on Instagram at barkandjack and check me on Instagram at wearehortix. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.